Hi, I'm Holly Ittle. I'm the exhibitions director here at the Dairy Barn Art Center, and we are speaking with 3 artists featured in OH+5 contemporary art of our region. The show is on view now at the Dairy Barn Art Center through March 13th, and you can find more information at dairybarn.org.
Thank you.
We're speaking with Hillary Gattian, Jacq Garcia, and Luke Boyd. Hi, good morning. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Luke, could you introduce yourself quickly?
My name's Luke Boyd. I'm a confectionery artist and I work a lot with cake decorating as well as like painting and sculpture. And so I live locally here in Athens, and that's also where I do my cake decorating.
Cool. Hey, Jacq, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Jacq Garcia. I am a first year at Ohio University. First year grad in print at Ohio University.
Awesome. Hey, Hillary.
Hi, I'm Hillary Gattian. I'm the gallery coordinator at Ohio University. I'm back in the area after getting my MFA there in 2018.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Well, I'm gonna mute myself and turn off my camera and let the 3 of you jump into your conversation.
All right. Thank you.
All right, guys, so I wanted to start off asking about the processes you used making your work that's in the Ohio+5 exhibition. You want to go first, Luke?
Sure. So a lot of what I work with right now, and especially that piece, is the like techniques and processes that like I've learned through cake decorating. And so really trying to just kind of initially, like once I found out how to make a like stable like frosting texture out of like a material that would hold up and would be lightweight, then I was able to then put it on really anything. And so I really wanted to put something up on the wall. I like the idea of like a cake being displayed on the wall because then it's automatically kind of defying gravity. And so it's really nice being able to like put this this fake or kind of like air dry frosting into like the pastry bags and use it just like frosting.
And what are you like putting the frosting on top of? Or your
that piece is like a foam base, and so like sometimes it's like spray foam, sometimes it's like just like chunks of foam that like I can cut up and carve, but like once I decide that shape, then it's kind of like going in and figuring out which parts are going to be like revealed as far as like the cake texture. And so putting that down in and then frosting the cake and then pulling away parts of the frosting to reveal the like cake texture parts.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, for my process, for the stuffed piece, it was hand sewn fabric and stuffed with polyfill using a found desk. And then for the print, it's standard CMYK print.
Yeah, and that was like a silk screen, right?
Yeah, silk screen. Mm-hmm.
What does a CMYK, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's cyan, magenta, yellow, and
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that for me.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so for mine, like the process starts with like image collecting. So I was going on frequent walks when I was living in Virginia around my neighborhood, and it's off the Chesapeake Bay River system. So there's a lot of water there, which was impacting the neighborhoods. So I kind of was photographing different categories of architecture, and one of them was these houses that had been modified, and they raised them up a story on cinder block in order to be resistant to the water rising in the area. And then from those photographs, I ended up creating a digital drawing. It's kind of a little bit of a puzzle putting it together. So I like look through the photographs and I'm like, well, how many bricks is this house tall? And like, how big is a standard brick? And start to piece together information and build the drawing that way. And then I use that as a guide to create the colored pencil drawing, and then also looking at the photographs that I've taken of the house for kind of like color and detail references.
Mm.
So let's see, we can talk about the titles of the pieces. Do you want to talk about the significance of the titles of your pieces, guys?
Yes. So the painting that I have of the dead fawn is titled Burial, and really it was really just kind of like I stumbled upon the dead fawn on a run, and it very kind of like outside of what I normally would do, but like decided to like make a painting about it. And because I wanted to bury it with like little frosting flowers. And so that's why it's titled Burial. And also just because like fawns have like little white spots in their fur, and that's like part of their camouflage. And so like I just wanted the little frosting flowers to kind of just like fade into the camouflage of the deer. But then the other one, which is like the cake one, is titled Expectations. And that I kind of arrived at that because I love this little saying, and I don't know where it's from, but it's that expectations are premeditated disappointments. And because I work with cake so much, and like the kind of like horror of like when one of them gets like dropped or damaged, because they're so fragile, and even just like temperature too can like destroy them. But like you have this expectation for this thing to be like super grand and tall, but something so small can totally come in and wreck that. And so that's why I titled that Expectations.
I like that. I don't even know that I read the title when I looked at the piece. So I like it more now.
No, good.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that quote before either. I really like that quote.
Yeah, I heard a drag queen say it. I know that they didn't invent it, so I'm not sure where it comes from, but I do love that. Yeah.
Yeah, for my titles, the print is Waiting, and it shows a picture of me and my dad when we were a lot younger, kind of in like this waiting, or it seems like a seating waiting arrangement, but it was more like kind of waiting for deportation, because it was the scene in the back is what are they called? Internment camps? I don't know, like immigration camps and stuff that are located in Houston, Texas, where I'm from. And then from Stuffed, it's kind of like a play on words because the thing itself is stuffed because it's a soft sculpture. And then in turn, the act of stuffing it is also like stuffing. And then it is then stuffed in a chair. So yeah, multiple play on words there.
Mm.
Yeah, mine's kind of like a play on words too. Like, so I use humor in my work a lot of times, or at least what I find funny. I don't know if other people agree, but I titled my drawings High Water. So that's obviously about the flooding. It happens in this neighborhood at high tide. So it's what's called sunny day flooding, where there doesn't have to be a storm to make the flooding happen. But it's also a reference to high water pants, which I guess would come in handy if you were wading through water.
Yeah. High waters, absolutely.
Don't be wearing your bell bottoms walking through a puddle.
Wait, are high waters when you have like the pants aren't very long, or is that when the pants come up to here and they're like waterproof?
When they're like not very long. I mean, I feel like it's kind of like fashionable now, but I would say like
Oh, okay.
when we were young, you would get like made fun of if like your pants were too high, you know, like you grew too tall and had to replace them.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
What were the pieces you guys were working on? Are they part of a series or are they just kind of standalone work?
No, I would say that like it's definitely within a line with of like a lot of the other stuff that I'm working on, but I don't like think of them as being like in a series. I'm not that organized to like plan stuff out like that.
Just what you make.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've at some points I like limit myself to a certain like a certain goals, and so I think then the work comes out being cohesive in that way as like a body of work, but definitely not like a series.
Yeah, I think I kind of feel similarly. Like there, a lot of my work is related to each other. I do know like the print itself originally was a series of like digital compositions that I made, and then I just turned that one into a print. And then as far as the stuffed goes, I'm still kind of exploring that. Whether or not you'll call it a series, it's more kind of explorations of the same topic. So I guess, yeah, it's a series, right? Using the same elements, trying to figure out placements for them and whatnot, playing around with things.
What other kinds of things have you done with the stuffed sculptures?
Yeah, I have an arrangement, like not just the one chair, but I have had like a classroom arrangement with different stuffed figures, and then stuffed in front of a television, like watching. I've also played around with the idea of like in auditoriums and stuff, placing them in there. So just different chairs, different areas of things being stuffed all.
Cool. I hope mine becomes part of a series. That's the goal, at least. I feel like I have like a couple hundred photos of houses just from Virginia that I'm working from. So the drawings I have in the show are kind of little parts of a house, not the whole thing. But I hope to draw the whole house that all of the parts are originally from, as well as other houses in the neighborhood. So hopefully it becomes a series. That's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah. Where are you guys finding your inspiration for your work, or what inspires you to create what you do?
I am always inspired from work, just always being around like pastries and baked goods. I'm constantly like messing around with stuff. And I also, I will sometimes like collect the stuff that is like getting thrown out and like dismantle it before it gets tossed, because I love just like looking at it and like playing with the food. But definitely at work and really just any bakery. And I love popping into McHappy's donut shop. I always find something in there. But
I like what you said about like dismantling, because I feel like you were doing some paintings of like you would bring like a cake to an event and then like photograph it right after.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
those pieces.
yeah. The dismantling part is really nice, especially when like the stuff is already like getting tossed. So like if it's old, you know, like I love being able to like stick my hand in like a pie and like I'm like always like, ooh, that looks really interesting.
That sounds so satisfying. It's just like
It
handful high.
yeah. Well, because you're used to like treating them with such kind of like, it's like the beautiful dessert, you don't want to be greedy and take too much or whatever, but like, just smashing it, or, you know, throwing a cake against something, you know, like I love that.
So fun. For me, for the waiting piece, mainly inspired by situations in life. So my dad was deported, and that kind of inspired a lot of work on like thinking about like the immigration system, and then like separated families, and like what does that mean to families, to children, to the people that get deported, and like what happens with that. And then inversely with the stuffed piece, I was thinking about accessibility of like spaces as it relates to fat bodies. So fat people are often not accommodated in different spaces. So like chairs will be uncomfortable, or like simply like you cannot do something. Like even going to, you know, like an amusement park or something, there's always like a size limit of what you can and can't do in certain spaces. So kind of those situations, and also like airplanes and being like stuffed in the chairs, which aren't even comfortable for normal or like straight size people, right? Not even like a fat person, like it's so uncomfortable. But yeah, those are kind of like current inspirations.
Yeah, it sounds like we're kind of like we're all inspired by things that we're experiencing in our like everyday life. So that's a big part of my work, is like things that I'm surrounded by. I'm very drawn and interested to architecture. That's what I was originally studying before I studied art. So that's kind of where I come from, but I'm also interested in on how like the architecture and man-made things have an impact on the environment. Things like the evidence of time and history and change, whether that's technology or nature, those are things that I look for and inspire me. So I'm always collecting different objects and images to make work from.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I think that's all for my question.
Oh, that's it. That's my turn.
Yeah, you're up, Luke.
All right. What are you currently creating?
Well, I'm about to get started working on an oil painting for show at the Majestic Galleries that's using John Sabra's reclaimed pigment. And Luke, I know you're going to be working on that too.
That's right.
I'm working from a photograph that I took at one of the places in Virginia I would walk, which is a golf course that's on the river, and it's right next to some coal piers. And the golf course itself used to be the site of a dump. And then in the photo, like the grass had just been mowed. So you can kind of see that human intervention on the nature there. But then like on the horizon line, you see the coal piers and the shipping port across the river. I've got like another working kind of play on words title. Manscape is what I'm thinking for it. We'll see if I change my mind while I'm working on it. But that's the next thing I have up.
So fun. Can't wait to see that.
You.
I'm excited to see that, because you showed me the source image, and I like how the whatever those like rigs are, they look like such foreign things out in the landscape. Like it almost looks like something out of like Star Wars.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. For me, currently creating, I've been playing around with creating different things out of, sorry, I blanked out because there's somebody here. No, okay. So I have been wanting to experiment with different methods of making. So currently I've been doing a lot of paper making, which is a process I hadn't done before, and using materials that are significant to like my own background. So I was using, or I am using banana leaves, which are not necessarily native to Honduras, but it is one of our main exports, like bananas and coffee are one of the main exports of that country. So I really wanted something that was connected to my heritage, and to use that. And I'm thinking a lot of familial passing down. So like recipes and different like cultural elements and whatnot from like Latinx culture and specifically Honduras.
That sounds cool.
How long does it take to make paper?
It's actually not that long. I thought it like, so okay, that's a lie. It's long, but it's not as long as like I initially thought. I thought it was gonna be like such a process, but like once, so the paper beating, and we're fortunate enough to have like a nice machine here, takes about 3-ish hours, and then pulling the paper can take another 3-ish hours if you work really diligently. And yeah, and then letting the paper dry like overnight or two, and then pull the paper and flatten it out, and it's all good. So it's about a couple days worth of work, but it's not super. It is a work of love, I would say.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of work.
It's
But
not as it's just a lot of work, but it's not hard work.
Okay,
If that makes sense.
that makes sense. Okay. Let's see. I'm currently working on some like wood panels that like I took the time to like make them to scale, because I'm making these I'm like making like cake mix boxes, but the scale is like blown up like twice the size. And so like I've got all these like wooden boxes right now in my apartment that I'm constructing. So hopefully I can put this together soon.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah, I mean I'm definitely messing with like the like flavors of the cake and like what it will like the ingredients that will be like listed on the sides and everything. But I love the like cake aisle at the grocery store and all the different cake mixes. So I'm excited to play around with that. What do you think or hope is evoked in the viewer when they see your artwork, Hillary?
So like I said earlier, I kind of start with humor and then things like craft and realism as a way to kind of draw the viewer in. But generally the works are about things that I'm questioning or thinking about. So I would want the viewer to kind of question or think about the same things. So with this series of drawings, I was thinking about the idea of capitalism and progress when you kind of have finite resources and that impacts on nature of that. Kind of the idea too of like that trophy like waterfront house that people aspire to have. And then the idea of like managed retreat versus people who are like rebuilding or reconfiguring their house to kind of withstand what's happening instead of making the decision to not build or live there. And that kind of comes from living in California also, where people are rebuilding after wildfires and things like that.
Right. That is interesting. Do you know, what do people do to like proof their house from wildfires, or is that a thing? Like architecturally, are they doing anything or like to?
It's like there's new regulations a lot of the times that are put in place on what types of building materials have to be used. So a lot of like the roofing materials and siding materials are concrete based materials. So like in like a siding that like looks like wood siding is actually made out of concrete, so that it is harder for the structure to burn down, or like it takes longer, so that it doesn't kill the people inside at least.
Wow. How interesting. Didn't know that. The more you know.
Okay.
Yeah. For my work, with stuff, just kind of just have the viewer, I guess, reconsider their spaces, and see, like, think more about spaces that they themselves take up, and also yeah, just think about how accessible some spaces can be and can't be, especially like in academia, right, with the desk chairs, like who is actually allowed at the table, who's allowed to be there, or who's allowed to be there comfortably as well, who will face hardships, kind of thinking about like that duality. And then with the other one, just, think about immigration and how law impacts real, actual human beings, rather than just this vague notion of, oh, those people over there. It's like, no, these people are also here and are affected by these things. And it's something that affects thousands of people like every day. So kind of just putting that to the forefront, instead of it being a background idea.
Yeah, for sure.
I hope that when people look at my work that they get some kind of sense of joy, but also I do hope that, like, especially with like the burial piece, that people maybe consider like maybe like unforeseen suffering. The I see a lot of like dead deer on runs, and it's really has to do with the fact that they're just, people just don't notice them, and they also, like, get out on the road. But the fawns in particular, because they're so small, they're just not, visible. And so I guess I hope that people consider just the effects that we have out on our environments. That would be what I would hope. And then, if you have seen the exhibit, what is your impression of the show?
I was like very impressed by like the variety of work that everyone's making that was in the show. I feel like there was a lot to look at, and going to the reception, there was like a lot of people there, and it was very like high energy. And Jacq and I were both getting ready to install a show back in the galleries on campus, and so I was like definitely energized by like being at the reception and seeing the show, and I'm like, all right, we can do this now. Like the semester is gonna start.
Nice.
Yeah, it's the same. It was kind of like, wow, seeing so many different styles of work and so many like 3D as well as 2D, and like it's just really impactful. And also being in an environment where there was like a reception and so many people so excited about the work and eager to talk, I thought was really fun, because I hadn't experienced that in a really long time. So it was just really nice to see people and interact. And yeah, it was a nice experience.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that like my favorite thing was just like the variety of work, but then also just like the variety of artists too, because it was nice that there were the, like representation from Ohio University, representation from Athens, and then representation from other areas of Ohio, and then also the surrounding states too. So that's really cool that it's a nice big show that does kind of like represent, these states. So I do like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that also like the, I also am like a big fan of like seeing like traditional oil paintings, and those, like some like that up alongside like maybe more experimental work, or work made with like non-traditional materials too. And so like to have that variety, I think, is really exciting as a viewer.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Did anything stand out to you in the show, Hillary?
I think just like I said, the amount, like a variety of the work within the pieces, because like you said, everyone's like working with variety of materials from really traditional stuff. Like there was, the quilts and oil paintings, and then some definitely more experimental pieces, you know, like yours and Jacq's work, I feel like are different. And, you know, like Lily's performance, I thought was like kind of a good surprise. Like you walk around the corner to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Lily's performance really stands out just because, I mean, I personally have never seen like a performance quite like Lily's performances, so it's just a really nice treat to see. And also, you know, the use of like materials and, you know, partial to stuffed pieces too, and fabrics and soft sculptures. So I really enjoyed that work a lot.
I felt like, and maybe it's because I went left right as I walked in, and I don't know the name of the artist, but there was a beautiful ceramic piece and it was like a vase with like plants and maybe fruit in it, but it was all black.
Oh, that's Gina.
Oh,
Yeah.
that piece stuck with me as I walked throughout the entire gallery. I love that.
You'll have to come to her thesis reception the first week of March.
Boom.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I pass it off to you, Jacq.
Yeah, quick fire questions. Okay, clay or paint?
Paint.
I'm a painter, so I should say paint, but I miss working with clay, so that's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, clay for me. Visit a gallery or visit a museum?
I think museum, but it's a toss-up, I would say.
Yeah, probably a museum.
I would say museum too, just because I feel like there'd be a little bit more to see, because museum gives me an impression of bigger. So I'm like, yes, more time, thank you.
Yeah, I guess I think of like museum being lots and, you know, like there's a lot to look at, whereas like gallery, I would think like I would want to go to like a bunch of galleries, like do a gallery hop.
Yes, gallery hop. Yeah, that sounds better. Okay, morning studio time or morning hike?
Neither. I aspire to be a morning person someday, but I feel like I'm slow to get going in the morning. I'm usually like thinking and planning at that point in time.
I'm laughing so hard because I was literally going to say both. Like that for me is like, I want to do everything in the morning because I will be dead after 6 p.m. I'm done.
Oh no. Yeah, I would say neither too. Like I am a night person, will only do night things. If I have to get up in the morning, it will be very slow. But yeah, neither. Sketching on paper or sketching digitally?
On paper for sure.
Paper.
I'm like a mix, I feel like. I like paper, but also digitally is so nice and accessible because then you can manipulate it. I did work a lot digitally. So I have found myself like doing the hand motions on like from the iPad to like erase on paper. And I feel so silly. I'm like, why isn't this like getting bigger?
It's probably because you're like young and you actually know how to draw digitally. Because like I feel like things take me so long. Like when I'm drawing like the pictures of the houses, I'm using like an architecture program, which is completely different than, you know, digital drawing tools.
Yeah. Oh man, so fun. Traditional materials or alternative materials?
I'm pretty much like use any material. Like I'm just trying to communicate an idea and then I kind of work backwards from there and decide what material to use. So kind of whatever fits the idea I'm thinking about.
I mean, I feel like my materials are pretty traditional, I guess. Some of them are kind of off the wall, but yeah, I'd go with traditional materials.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too. I feel like most of the things I use are traditional. Yeah, it's traditional. The image itself or the concept might not be traditional, but the actual materials are traditional. And then the sun or the moon?
I would say the moon.
The sun.
Oh man, y'all are complete opposites.
Yeah.
It's so fun. I would say Hillary knows this. I have a very hard time deciding things in general. So I would say I like the sun because I like the colors, the vibrancy, the yellow. But the moon, I love nighttime, darkness, like that is fun. So I'm like an afternoon when the sun is going down and you can still see the moon. Yeah. And then music or podcast?
Definitely podcasts. That's what I'm generally listening to while I'm working.
Yeah, I'm definitely a music person. I'm always jamming out.
Yeah. I think it depends on my mood. Lately, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. But yeah, music's always fun. And I think y'all literally almost said everything opposite from each other, which is really fun, other than like paper and stuff.
We just pretend we're friends, you know.
That's okay. Me and Hillary are definitely yin and yang, but we get along so well.
It's so fun.
Well, thank you for joining us for this great conversation. Again, these are 3 artists featured in OH+5 Contemporary Art of our region. The show is on view now through March 13th, 2022 at the Dairy Barn Art Center in Athens, Ohio. You can find more information at dairybarn.org. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.